Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you this keyboard that was sent to me recently by this company called Delux. This product is actually currently on Kickstarter. The company is trying to raise funds to mass produce it. Let's take a look at the Kickstarter page. I will put the link to this page in the video description below so that you can check it out later. They have already exceeded their goal, and there are a few more days to go before the campaign ends. So I'm actually quite late at putting out this review. Let's take a look at what is this. We have the keyboard, USB cable. Oh, there's actually a micro SD card slot on the side. Let me put that away. This is the USB cable, the user manual, and we have a very nice carrying pouch. This is velvety. It feels very nice. This is not a wireless keyboard, so the USB cable is provided. It uses USB Type-C connection to the keyboard, and this is the regular USB Type-A to the computer. And this cable is actually quite long, and it's very tough, and it's braided on the side, so it's some sort of cloth here. Build quality of this cable is great. The build quality of this keyboard is also excellent. It comes in two colors, silver and black. This is aluminum, brushed aluminum, and the edges, they are beveled and polished to a shine. On the side we have this white part here. This is the USB Type-C connector. So on the paper earlier it says that there should be a SD card slot, a micro SD card slot here, but I don't see any. 6 rubber feet on the back to prevent the keyboard from moving around, and this keyboard does not move around when it's on the table because those rubber feet, they work really well. So this is not your usual keyboard. Let's compare this keyboard to this keyboard that I have, which is a Logitech wireless keyboard. Remember, this is not a wireless keyboard, so you do need to connect the USB cable. So what's the difference between this and this? Well, this keyboard is designed specifically for designers, people who like to use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. Now the thing is, this keyboard does not have all the keys in a full-size keyboard. It only has selected keys. And not just that, all these buttons here, they are actually sort of like function buttons. These are actually numeral buttons, so we have 1 to 0, and you see here the G1, G2. If you want numbers, you just have to press on this number pad here, and this will activate the number mode and you can type numbers. But if you want to go into the keyboard shortcut modes, there are 3 buttons here. 3 different sets of keyboard shortcuts that you can program depending on the software that you use. So for example, if you use Photoshop, ZBrush or Maya, you can assign Photoshop to 1 button, ZBrush to another button, and Maya to 1 button. And the shortcuts, they will update accordingly based on what you have programmed to each of the menu sets here. Having buttons like this where you can configure specific keyboard shortcuts can help you save time. So for example, for very tricky keyboard shortcuts that require a lot of buttons, you can now program that sequence of buttons into 1 button here. Other than the function buttons, we also have some alphabets here: Z, X, C, and V. So this is undo. X would be for cut. You can still use the control button, the modifier button here, to control X to cut, control C to copy, control V to paste. We have escape, tab, shift, control, function button, alternate, and this is the space bar. And here we have a dial. After you have installed the driver, you can actually press the button here in the middle of the dial to switch between different functions. So for example, you can switch to panning web pages and then use the dial to pan web pages, or you can press again to switch to changing brush size in Photoshop, and you can use the dial to change brush sizes. So this dial here is quite useful. The buttons have a very clicky sound. These are actually mechanical keys, and you can, if you want to, you can sort of pull the buttons off and replace them with other buttons. So just like any other mechanical keyboard. It feels very nice to click on, but it's a bit noisy compared to other keyboards. Alright, so what's the main difference between this keyboard and this keyboard? Well, you can access keyboard shortcuts with this keyboard and also with this keyboard, just that with this particular keyboard, you have to program the keyboard shortcuts into the buttons. For here, you have to press the actual keys to get the shortcuts. So both keyboards are capable of letting you access keyboard shortcuts. Now, the main selling point of this keyboard is the ability to program macros. Macros are basically a sequence of steps that you can record and program. So when you're using macros with this keyboard, you can record those sequence of steps and save them into any of the buttons here, and that can be a huge time saver. So let me connect this to the computer and show you the functionality. This is the keyboard connected to my computer, so the keys are actually backlit, and you can switch between the functions to the number mode. You can switch between the different menu sets just by pressing any of the button, and the button will light up telling you which mode you are in. This is the driver for the keyboard. You can download the driver from their website. Now this driver has already been pre-configured with some keyboard shortcuts. Let's take a look at some of the menus here. We have Photoshop, Illustrator, Photoshop again, InDesign. So some of these keyboards shortcuts have been pre-configured to those software. Of course, when you use the keyboard for the first time, you will want to customize your own keyboard shortcuts and assign them to the buttons. When I first used the keyboard, I found out that some of these keyboard shortcuts, they were not working properly, so I had to reconfigure the keyboard shortcuts. After that, they worked properly. So to configure your own keyboard shortcuts, it's very simple. You just have to click on the buttons, and this will bring up this menu, and you can just assign any keyboard shortcut into this menu. I have already assigned my keyboard shortcuts, so I'm going to demonstrate them to you later on. Now, to configure different menu sets, you just have to click here. M1 for the first menu, M2 second, M3 the third menu. So it's very easy to configure. When you use the dial, there will be this little overlay at the corner of the screen to show you the different functions available. You can press the button to go into the mode, and then you can use the dial to adjust the setting. So here, for example, this particular button, this is assigned to the Photoshop brush size. So now you can turn the dial to increase and decrease brush size. And each time you switch between the menu sets, you can see this label appearing. Alright, I have already configured the keyboard shortcuts into the button, so let's play around with them. So this is Ctrl-N to create a new file, escape. This is to close the file. Oops, I actually closed the file. We have zoom in, zoom out. Let's pick a brush and draw something. So let's increase the brush size right now using the dial. And let's switch over to using the eraser. Oh, actually I should have created a new layer. So let me just close this file again and open it up. So let me create a new layer. I have the shortcut program into this button as well. So now I'm on a new layer. Go into the brush mode, go into the eraser mode, and let's undo. Oops, pressed the wrong button, so I can undo. Keyboard shortcuts are easy to understand. Now let's talk about the other selling point, the ability to use macros. So I'm going to show you something that I do quite often, which is to make a selection on a subject and then delete away the background. So for this particular photograph, I have already made a selection of the keyboard using the pen tool. I'm going to delete away the background and make it transparent. Now this is how I would do it using a normal keyboard. So I have already made the selection with the pen. I'm going to control click to get the marching ends. I'm going to contract the selection by 1 pixel. I'm going to feather the selection by 1 pixel. I'm going to make a copy of the selection onto a new layer. And I'm going to move down 1 layer and delete the background. So this is the sequence of steps that I do quite often in my line of work in the office. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the macro key. So I'm going to control click on the pen path again to make the selection, and now I'm going to press this button, which I have already programmed with a macro. So there I have it. The selection is now on a separate layer on its own. The background has been deleted. So now if I want to move this item, this subject around to copy to another file, I can do so very easily. So earlier on when I used this keyboard, I pressed a lot of keyboard shortcuts, went through a few steps. Now I just have to press one button here. So that's how useful a macro can be. Overall, the keyboard works as expected. It works quite well. There's only one downside I can think of. This keyboard is designed for Windows user, so control, function, alternate, all these keys, they are for Windows. If you are a Mac user, you will probably need the command key. And when you connect this keyboard to a Mac, there is no command key. The control key still remains as control. Function key no longer works. Alternate key is still alternate. So we are missing one command key for this keyboard when you're using it with the Mac. So when it comes to assigning keyboard shortcuts, you still need to use a keyboard like this. But when it comes to using keyboard shortcuts like Command Z, Command X, Command C, there is no way to do so using this keyboard when you are using it with a Mac. So that's it for my review of the Delux Designer keyboard. If you want to find out more information or if you want to get this keyboard for yourself, you can visit the Kickstarter link, which is in the video description below. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope this video is helpful. See you in the next one. Bye!